Imagine yourself in a super quiet room where there's absolutely no noise coming from the surrounding. What would you hear? If you stand in it for long enough, you start to hear your heartbeat. When you move, your bones will make a grinding noise. Eventually, you lose your balance because the absolute lack of reverberation sabotages your spatial awareness. Our brains continuously use sound signals to assess the space around us, and our moods are easily affected by fluctuations in sound. That is why some people like to study at a cozy cafe. Some say that they sleep better in a rainy day. And some say that they can find inner peace by listening to the sound of the sea. But nobody likes renovations happening upstairs. Auditory experiences greatly affect our perception of space. Designers and architects know this secret and have invented many techniques and devices that modulate sound to craft specific experiences for its uses. Now, let us look at some acoustic engineering magic. Have you ever wondered how did musicians record their voice so clearly in CDs and albums? Well, if you try to record your voice in your room, you'll be surprised by how much background noise the mic will pick up. To create a quiet recording room, we need to understand three mechanisms of sound propagation. The first mechanism is airborne noise, which is sound that is transmitted via the air. The second type of mechanism is structure-borne noise, which is sound transmitted by the building structure itself. Sometimes, sound generated in one room reaches the wall and then vibrates that surface and is re-radiated by the surface on the other side of the wall into the adjacent room. There are many construction techniques to counteract the mechanism of propagation of sound. We can build a thick wall around the room to act as a massive barrier to the exterior so that the vibrations into the room is lesser. And we can also cover the floor and the walls with dampening materials that can absorb the vibrations inside the room. Or we can create a room inside a room, which is to create air gaps between the studio and the wall of the building, so that the vibrations in the structures of the buildings will not be transferred into the studio. Besides recording, every musician loves to play live. Prior to the invention of electronic amplification of sound, designers need to create spaces that increase the volume projected from the stage so that more audience could hear the performance. In the amphitheater in ancient Greece, the rising stairs acts as a corrugated surface which can filter sound waves to emphasize certain frequencies. The size of the stone benches are carefully calculated to dampen frequencies lower than 500 Hz, so that background noises from rustling trees and murmuring theatergoers are filtered out to improve the audibility of the performers' voices. In modern days, architects are now looking at three things to help people enjoy the concert better. Firstly, a great concert hall has to be very quiet. Secondly, the hall needs to have a tonal balance so that everybody hears the music at the same pitch, not too sharp, not too bassy. The third consideration is the uniformity of sound. We want everybody to hear the music at the same volume, and we also want the orchestra to hear what they're playing as well. By carefully curating natural sound sources in a thoughtfully designed landscape, designers can create a place of beautiful serenity, which contributes positively to a healthy spirit. Japanese gardens accommodate a wide range of natural sound, such as the sound of water flowing, birds chirping, and leaves shuffling. The materials of the garden also interacts with the visitor to provide a different dimension in the sonic experience. Walking on the gravel path creates a crispy, crunchy sound, while leaping on the stepping stones gives a percussive tapping sound. Japanese gardens also have their own instruments as well. For example, an upside-down buried clay jar with a hole at the top. As water droplets fall through the hole into the jar, they create a clear splashing sound that echoes in the jar. Or a bamboo pipe, pivoted and resting against a rock. As the pipe becomes filled by water, it gradually tips over and falls against the rock. The cycle repeats as water gets emptied and the pipe tilts back. However, most urban areas are blighted by noise pollution that endangers our well-being. One of the biggest emitters of noise pollution is the highway. Noise barriers could be put along these highways and reduce the loudness of traffic noise by as much as 50%. They work by blocking the direct path from the noise source to the receiver, so that a shadow zone is created behind the barrier in which listeners are protected from the noise. Another major source of noise pollution we must tackle is the airport. In Amsterdam, landscape architects have found a great way to combine function with beauty. They created a pattern of ridges sitting next to the largest runway in Amsterdam's airport. The ridges absorb and deflect the noise from the engines underground, especially low-frequency sounds. This cuts noise in half for people living in nearby neighborhoods. Inside the ridges, visitors can walk through maze-like paths or have picnics in outdoor spaces surrounded by walls of the ridges. So, noise-controlling devices don't need to be ugly, but they could be beautiful as well. Too much noises are undesirable as it distracts people from concentrating on their work. But an environment that is too quiet can be rather unnerving either, as people might become too conscious on the sound they make. The first thing architects could do is to install acoustic ceilings, wall panels, or carpets around their office to absorb noise and reduce reverberation. Another technique we can use is to use heavy materials around the office. The heavier the material, such as fiberglass or concrete, the greater the density of the material and the more sound it will block. This is useful in meeting rooms where conversation needs to be isolated. The last strategy is sound masking. This works by adding a constant fixed level of unobstructed background noise to the work environment. This background noise makes conversation less disruptive. Auditory experiences greatly affect our perception of space. A pleasant space must not only look good in our eyes, but also sound good as well. There are many techniques designers and architects could use to create the appropriate sonic quality of a space. Sometimes we use these techniques to enhance our musical enjoyment, or to bring ourselves closer to nature. While in other times, we just want to block off irritating disturbances for a productive day and a peaceful night.